If weight loss feels hard, it's not because you're lazy, it's because your body and your routine are out of alignment. For years, I made fat loss way harder than it needed to be. I relied on discipline, motivation, and starting over on Monday. And every time those ran out, which they always do, I fell off. What actually changed for me and my clients was this. I stopped chasing motivation and I started building alignment. And that's where the alignment framework comes in. Instead of forcing results, you create a system where your body, your habits, and your identity all start working with you. So in this video, I'm walking you through the 4 phases: how to regulate your energy, validate that what you're doing is actually working, stabilizing your habits so they stick, and aligning your identity so you don't stop starting over. Because once these are in place, fat loss stops feeling like a constant uphill battle. It starts to feel automatic. Let's start with phase 1, regulate. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think they need to go harder, do more, and push themselves into exhaustion, but their body's already burnt out. So instead of creating energy, they're draining it. And then they wonder why they can't stay consistent. Because here's the truth. If your energy isn't regulated, then nothing else sticks. Regulation works like this. You support your body, your energy improves, you move more, your body responds better, and your energy improves again. That's the cycle we're trying to build. But most people are stuck in the opposite cycle. You feel exhausted, so you don't move. You don't move, so your energy gets worse. Your body feels tight, inflamed, and sluggish, so you rest more. And the more you rest, the worse you feel. It's not a motivation problem, it's a regulation problem. And I've been there. There were times where my workouts felt draining, my body felt inflamed, and I just assumed I needed to push harder. But what actually shifted things was doing less better. I started simple: daily walking, shorter, more intentional workouts, and actually supporting my body instead of fighting it. And at first, I didn't feel amazing. My body was adjusting, my energy wasn't instantly high, but I stayed consistent. And then something shifted. I started craving movement. I had more stable energy throughout the day, and on the days I didn't move, I felt it. And that's when you know your body is coming back into alignment. So think of it like this. You have to give your body energy before it gives energy back. And yes, the first few days might feel harder. You might feel a little more tired before you feel better, and that's your body recalibrating. So here's what I want you to do. Commit to 10 days of intentional movement. Nothing extreme, a 10 to 20 minute walk, a short strength workout, even stretching before bed. The goal isn't to burn calories. The goal is to regulate your system so that your body starts working with you again. Because once your energy is regulated, then everything else becomes easier to build on top of it. And that's where phase 2 comes in: validate. Because once your energy is in a better place, you need proof that what you're doing is actually working, not just physically, but mentally. And validation works like this. You follow through, you create proof, and then that proof builds trust, and that trust makes it easier to follow through again. And over time, that builds momentum. But here's what most people do instead. They build a case against themselves. I'm too busy. My schedule is crazy. I've tried this before and it didn't work. And then every small slip up becomes confirmation. The scale goes up a pound. See, nothing works for me. You overeat one night. I have no discipline. You're constantly collecting evidence, just not in your favor. So the framework is working, just in the opposite direction. What we need to do is flip it. Start validating the fact that you can do this. And then every time you follow through, even in a small way, that's proof. You hit your steps, proof. You built a balanced meal, proof. You pause before overeating instead of reacting immediately, proof. These are not small things. These are the exact behaviors that will lead to fat loss, better hormones, and a stronger body. And this part matters. You actually have to let yourself acknowledge it. Most people skip right past their wins and they only focus on what went wrong. And that's why they feel stuck, even when they're doing things right. I used to be the same way. I couldn't string together consistent days. I'd be on one day and then completely off the next, and stuck in that cycle of starting over. But everything changed when I had one solid day. And instead of brushing it off, I thought, wait, if I did it once, then I can do it again. And I did. Not because I was more motivated, but because I started paying attention to what I was doing right. Think of it like this. Validation builds momentum, and at first it's small, but every time you follow through, you are stacking proof, and eventually it becomes very hard to convince yourself that it isn't working, because now you have evidence that it is. So here's what I want you to do. Start tracking your wins, not just your results. And at the end of the day, ask yourself, what did I do today that moved me forward? Not perfect, just forward. Because the more you validate your effort, the easier it becomes to stay consistent. And then once you have that consistency, we can actually lock it in. And this brings us to phase 3, which is stabilize. Because once you have energy and you started building proof, now we need to make this stick. Stabilization works like this. You focus on one habit, you master it, it becomes automatic, and then you layer in the next. And then over time, you build a system that runs without constant effort. But this is where most people sabotage themselves. They try to do everything at once. New workout plan, new diet, new supplements, new routine. And they're in it for about 5 days, and then it falls apart. Because you can't build a strong body or a sustainable routine on chaos. You need foundation, and each layer you build should make the next layer easier, not harder. I learned this the hard way. There was a time where I thought I was past the basics, like I didn't need to focus on these simple things anymore. And because of that, I skipped them, and then I stayed stuck. And what actually changed things? I simplified everything. I picked one habit, protein and vegetables at every meal. That was it. No overhaul, no extreme plan, just adding in what my body actually needed so I wasn't constantly hungry, craving, and then playing catch up later in the day. It wasn't exciting, but it was doable, and I did it every day for a week. And then I added the next layer, a daily walk, and then another, and I started planning my meals ahead of time. And then here's what started to happen. Each habit got easier to maintain, not harder. Because I wasn't relying on willpower anymore, I was building a system. And eventually, these things stopped feeling like effort. They just become what you do. So now, if I don't move, I feel off. If I don't eat in a way that supports my body, I notice that immediately, and that's on stabilization. So here's how you can apply this. Pick one habit, master it for 7 days, and then add another. Do not rush this, because the second you try to stack too much too fast, you create overwhelm, break consistency, and then you end up back at square one. The goal isn't to do everything perfectly. It's to build a routine that runs on autopilot, where showing up doesn't feel like just a fight, it is normal. And once your habits are stabilized, there's only one thing left. And it's the piece that determines whether you stay consistent long-term or not. And that's where phase 4 comes in, align. This is the piece that determines whether you keep your results or keep starting over. Alignment works like this. You start acting like the person that you want to become. Your actions reinforce that identity, and then over time, that identity becomes real. Now, I know this can sound a little bit out there, but stay with me, because this is where everything either clicks or falls apart. For a long time, I didn't struggle because I didn't know what to do. I struggled because how I saw myself. I believed I was inconsistent. I believed that I lacked discipline. And I believed that I was just someone who falls off. And because of that, that's exactly how I showed up. I'd have one day off and then spiral. Skip a workout and assume that I was back right at square one. Overeat at night and then tell myself this is just who I am. Your identity drives your behavior whether you realize it or not. So instead of trying to fix everything at once, I shifted the question, not what should I do, but who do I need to become? For me, that looked like someone who follows through even when it's inconvenient, doesn't spiral after one day, and supports her body instead of punishing it. And then I started acting like that version of me before I fully believed it. There were moments where I didn't feel like it. Standing in the kitchen at night, thinking about skipping a workout, and instead of going back to old patterns, I pause and ask, what would the aligned version of me do right now? Not the perfect version, not the extreme version, the consistent version. And that version of me, she doesn't quit after one bad day. She adjusts and she moves on. She doesn't rely on motivation. She follows through because that's just what she does. She doesn't avoid discomfort. She knows that's part of the process. And the more that I made decisions from that place, the more natural it became. Because identity doesn't come first, behavior does. You build the identity by acting it out over and over again. So here's how you can apply this. Ask yourself, who am I trying to become? And then in the moments that usually throw you off, pause and decide from that version of you, not perfectly, just consistently. Because the more you do that, the more aligned you become. And once that clicks, everything else becomes easier to maintain. And that is why the alignment framework works so well together. Regulate your energy so you can actually show up. Validate your actions so you can build trust with yourself. Stabilize your habits to become automatic, and align your identity so you stop self-sabotaging. And when all four are working together, you don't need to rely on motivation anymore. You're not constantly starting over. You've built a system that supports you. And that's with fat loss, strength, and feeling good in your body. Stop feeling so hard. If you want help getting started, download the Women's Bonus Vault in the description to help you regulate your energy and build momentum. And if you want to lose your first 15 pounds fast, check out the video here, and I will see you in the next one.